see them in the church. And, well, imagine our surprise when we got out into, we started in the Episcopalian, in the Episcopal Church, St. Stephen's Episcopal Church.
Church.
Yes, Bisky had air quotes there. And
Sorry about that.
if every person who ever listens to this show and any other show we ever do all did air quotes at the same time, it would not be big enough air quotes to apply to church. And we'll talk about that someday. We'll do a whole episode on the Episcopalians. I could tell you a story about a sermon that their presiding bishop gave regarding Paul and the slave girl that he freed from the
Right.
serpent demon. I'll save that. It's scandalous. I mean scandalous. But anyhow.
Interesting.
So,
Looking forward to it.
so where did we go after that, Bisky? When we came away from Father Scott and his sailing sabbaticals.
It was to the church downtown.
Oh, right. The big white church with the steeple.
The Southern Baptist.
The Southern
Church.
Baptists. Yeah. They had dinner every Wednesday. And
Prayer meeting that all the old folks went to.
that's right. We went to the prayer meeting a couple of times, and it was a sheet of paper with names, 3 or 4 columns of names, and
most of which we didn't know.
most of which no one knew. And it just consisted of like a short opening prayer. The list was read down every month or so. Somebody would go down the list and they would X out everyone who had died or gotten a job or whatever. And that was the prayer meeting there. And they're just well, I guess that's a story for another day too, but I can say that is the church where God woke us up. That
For sure.
we left the Episcopal Church sort of just wanting more, but not really having any real idea of what that meant.
Well, we were a little lowbrow for that Episcopal
Oh
church.
yeah,
I
we
think
were
was the
for
big
sure. We were for sure. We
thing.
didn't fit in
Anywhere that
at all.
the rector can go on a 2-month sabbatical on a sailboat that was funded by the church, and me just scraping and scratching trying to keep the lights on.
Right.
That's a little off-putting.
Do you remember how Father Scott, and I'm going to stop calling him Father, I know that's not proper, but that's what we knew him by
Right.
back then, and it's just in my head that way. So, do you remember how Sabbatical Scott told us about how he just really admired your facial hair because he had tried to grow a beard, and his parishioners had forced him to shave it because he looked too scruffy.
Yep.
But they did allow him to go on a sailing sabbatical. So I guess it's a trade-off, right?
Right. Well, there's appearances
Priorities.
are everything.
Priorities. Yep. So anyway, so the Southern Baptists is what we experience there is going to be pretty familiar to a lot of you. A Sunday school teacher taught by a woman. A pastor who was handpicked out of the congregation by the deacons and the old folks because they liked him and he was sweet. He never offended anybody.
He was easily controlled.
That is true. And I have to scandalize you guys and tell you that when we joined that Baptist church, we were living together, and our 6-year-old was a baby, and we were not married. Bum, bum, bum. I don't see. We haven't. We're pretty lowbrow for podcasting too, so I don't have any sound effects yet. But maybe by the time we figure out how to broadcast this, Bisky will have found some. But we were not, and our pastor actually never mentioned it to us. We were untaught. We had mentioned it to our rector there at the Episcopal Church, and he had shrugged at us. Biscuit, tell the folks what this alleged man of God said to us when we said to him that I was pregnant and wanted to know if the fact that we were not married was an issue. Tell the folks what he said.
Well, there were no marriage certificates in Bethlehem.
That's right.
We said that over a beer in a bar.
That's correct.
And he had his collar on and everything in the college bar.
That's right.
And we thought it was cool. Sweet.
Yes, absolutely.
We were, so let's not get it twisted. We look at it, and we look back on it now and see how wrong we were. But this is, a bit of, how we got to where we were. And then
this is how we know what's lurking in the church.
right.
Because it has lurked on us. And we have sinned and paid the price for it.
Yeah.
And sinned under the very noses and before the very eyes of men of God whose job it was to teach us better. And they never wanted to offend us, and they never wanted to hurt us or hurt their reputation or look like a fanatic, and they left us in sin, us and our children.
Yep. And, they there was no evangelism there at all. We had been saved and knew that we wanted, Jesus in our lives, and we went there because the it's very ceremonial.
The Episcopal Church.
The
You
Episcopal
mean by
Church.
their yes.
Yeah, the Episcopal Church is very ceremonial, pretty and very. So we got lured into there, and then we decided we wanted more, and so the Baptists, they do things, and so they did a little something, and we liked it. It was down homes, kind of what our grandparents were into, and then we had gone to another church. We were thinking about leaving, or we were no, I'm sorry, we were talking to another Baptist, a Baptist minister, and we were talking about maybe joining his church, and he told me in his office, "You're not married. You can't be a member of this church."
Oh, we were scandalized. You remember, Biscuit?
We were.
We were furious.
We were mad.
How dare he?
How dare you turn us away?
How closed-minded. We want to come and get close to God, and you're turning us away. And see, this is exactly, we'd been in church for years at that point.
2 or 3
That
at
was
least.
exactly what we had been taught to think, was that you were not allowed to mind people's business that way. This was the first time in all of our years of church attendance that anyone had ever confronted anyone for sin in our experience. Not us, not anyone else. And we were married people or people living unmarried in a home full of our children. And I mean, it's just no one cared. Anyway, so
it's the modern American way to go, and that's we had gone there.
So when God really once Bisky spoke to that pastor, we're actually surprisingly easy to convict if you can get our attention. Isn't that right, Bisky?
Yeah.
He sort of gave Bisky the talking to, and we spent about a week being furious, and then I don't remember which one of us, but one of us was like, maybe we should get married. Maybe this isn't right. And the Holy Spirit, convicted us basically around the same time, and not in any dramatic way. It was just a transition where, one day we were like, this dude, what is he doing? Why is he minding our business? And then sort of just one day, not long after that, without a whole lot of discussion, we just kind of were like, I think he's actually right. And then, so from that moment on, we lived in our home because we had a family and we didn't want to break up the family, but we did stay separate from each other, didn't we, Bisky?
Mm-hmm.
From that time until we did get married. And we prayed a lot about that, and that was actually surprisingly easy. Of course, you may not have thought so.
Well, the thing is, we had been living in sin
for real
for so long.
We had been,
and it was finally, I finally, it was like I finally got some form of accountability. I wasn't just a rear end in a pew seat anymore. That
Yeah.
hey, it's for real. Nobody was going to tell me I was wrong until I went to that man and he told me, you can't be a member of this church. You're not married and you're living, with a woman. You've got a kid and it convicted me because I was mad, but
Mm,
the truth always hurts.
it
And
did.
I want we wanted to be married, and it was there were circumstances there that caused us to look at it as not a big deal. We knew we loved each other, and
Well, that's what Father Scott said. That's what
right, right,
Salem
right,
Scott said. He said after he asked, he said the thing about the birth certificates. He said, "Well, God knows you love each other, doesn't He?
right.
That's good enough for Him. He cares about
Well,
your
that's what we
heart."
were hoping.
Yeah.
That was really what we were hoping we'd hear. How sweet,
Yeah.
we're not living in sin. We do love each other.
You don't
Hooray!
say. I'm
You
all
know,
good.
and
Yes.
so
Another beer,
we
please.
yeah, right. Yeah. So yeah, it's
So we're anyway. We could go on about those dudes forever. So okay. So after Rusty, then we floated around for a while. We experienced the
a few months. Yeah,
hideous, devilish noise of the modern worship band complete with concert lights,
yeah.
with the
Live
drum kit
broadcast.
that had the plexiglass shield in front of it, so it wouldn't deafen people. Several backup singers. Yeah, live webcast.
Yeah, this place is loud.
They did like theme sermons. Like one of the sermons that they did while we were there was themed around The Walking Dead, complete with
Zombies.
a video, a Walking Dead parody video shot by the youth group. That was fun.
Yeah,
We enjoyed that. It was real good for the kids. Um, just what we were looking for. So we went back there one more time. I think because the pastor actually had great delivery. I
yeah,
can't say much to his content because I was not very smart then. And I may have been fooled by his delivery, so I won't say that he had good content, but I know that we like to listen to him. But the music, before I learned that it's okay to be a stick in the mud about the things of God, um, the music drove me nuts. Only I felt like a wet blanket, and so we ought to give it another try because the pastor was okay. But I wouldn't set foot back in that place for nothing.
no, no.
No, and everybody there is just, it's the same kind of, just nice, nice, nice. Like that's the Holy Spirit's job to make people feel
Oh, that
bad.
one woman chased you out the door.
She did actually. I ran away from her. Do you remember?
Hmm.
She really wanted me to come back.
Yeah, that place is like a small concert hall.
Was.
Like, you go and see some punk band and it was so loud. And I mean, it's an old church and like the windows were covered or whatever.
Yeah, they're blacked out. They blacked the
Blacked
windows
out.
out.
And,
See,
it's like lights and
they spent a lot of money on
everything.
those lights. They can't have
Yeah,
the sun, the sun like blocking out their
right.
concert
And the
lights.
rest of the congregation sits in the
That would be
dark
gross.
and it repeats the same song lyrics over and over while these five people are up
Oh,
on stage. And
well, we've only got 15 minutes left. So we
uh,
shouldn't go on about Freedom Life.
sorry.
So we're probably going to have to do a couple of intro episodes. If anyone ever actually does listen, and any of you decide to come back, we actually will get to content soon.
Yeah,
But I'll tell you that we're doing a podcast in part because Bisky and I have been so blessed by so many podcasts. I can recommend right off the bat the Fourth Watch with Justin Fall. That's Justin with an E, Faull. You would enjoy some of you would enjoy, if you haven't heard of him, Kev Baker, the Kev Baker Show.
yeah, he's fun to listen to.
He's great.
And he's Scottish, so it's like
He's great. Oh yeah, he's great to listen
it's
to.
equally. It makes it even more fun. I enjoy accents.
Yeah, and he has Anthony Patch on a lot, who does a lot of really great research on CERN and quantum physics, and some things that sound really complicated when you just sort of